welcoming Carol, and happy session to everybody.
Good morning and welcome. You'll actually see how resilient I actually am this morning, or hopefully I am. I was telling Effie I had a DVD video that I wanted to show you, and of course this morning when I go put it on, it's not working. So we're on to plan B. So if I survive, then you know I'm resilient, and you can be too, right? If I can be, you can be. So in my work at Stonegate Community Health Center, I also work with a lot of newcomer families. The families that I work with tend to come from Eastern European. So a lot of them don't speak English when they come into program. You're dealing with a new culture, a new way of doing things. So a lot of the principles that we're going to talk about today, which you'll probably come to know, that you probably automatically do them. So it's just giving a name to what you're already doing, and also bringing it back to the forefront of your mind that this is important in helping families settle, helping them build resiliency, helping them bounce back from adversity that might come their way. The biggest change for many families, and many of you have probably done it, I haven't, and you have, is to immigrate from another country. And you have to be really resilient and a very strong person to be able to do that and to adapt. I always like to use the analogy of bouncing back, like a ball that bounces to the ground and bounces back up. Sometimes when you're dealing with a situation, you might think, I'm never going to bounce back. There's no way. But if you reflect back in your life, there was probably many situations when that's how you felt, and you did bounce back like that ball that you bounce around. So it also helps overcome childhood disadvantage. How can it help overcome childhood disadvantage? So if a child is resilient, think of the children and the families you're working with. If I'm a resilient person, how do I overcome disadvantage? So if I see the disadvantage, for example, if I grew up in poverty, and that's a disadvantage, right? Now, if I see it as, well, I grew up in poverty, there's nothing I can do about it, right? So this is my life. It is what it is. Or you can have the positive thinking and say, yes, I grew up in poverty, but doing that also enabled me to be resourceful, right? To look within for strengths. And if you grew up in poverty, you probably saw the resourcefulness in your parents, for example, or your family members in trying to make ends meet. So you learn skills there. And so if you're resilient and you're thinking in terms of refraining your thinking to something positive, how can I use these skills in my life now too? And that's what resiliency is about, learning from your mistakes, not saying, well, I come from a disadvantaged background, so I give up. Or, well, I made a mistake, so nothing ever goes right for me, so I give up. No, it's flipping it the other way and saying, okay, so what? Now where do I go from here? Okay? So it's bouncing back from trauma. So if you're resilient, you can bounce back from trauma. And it's reaching out to new opportunities. People who are resilient will take risks to learn, will take risks to try new things, and when they reach out for new opportunities, they're not afraid to reach out and say, I need help. That's also part of being resilient, is saying, I need help right now. So people with resilience are healthier and live stronger. And that's, in my opinion, that's because they have a positive attitude. They have a positive outlook at life. They don't, when they're stressed with things in life, they don't keep it inside. So they're going to be communicating with people. They're going to talk about their stress. And when you're keeping things inside, what happens to your body? Get sick. Headaches, stomach pain, okay? Stress, absolutely. People who are resilient are more successful in school and jobs. That's because they become confident. That's because they will take the challenges that they need to take, and they're not afraid to make the mistake, because the mistake is actually opportunity. That's key, is how we look at situations determines how we react. And I always say to people in conflict situations, even in my work with my staff, I'll say conflicts are good because they help us grow, they help us learn, but it's how we deal with the conflict that determines everything else. Think of employment. Someone's lost their job, okay? So I've lost my job. Did I lose my job because of me? No, it's the economy, right? The company was downsized, it wasn't me. Okay. Will I always be unemployed? Because at that moment, you're probably thinking, I will never find another job, the economy is so bad. So what you have to ask yourself is, at 80 years old, when I reflect back on my life, will that job that I lost at, however old you are, be the last job I've ever had? Most likely not, right? Okay? So it's also the 3P of how does everything, or how can I deal with everything, considering that I've lost this position? How do I move forward? Okay, again, it's reframing into a positive. So we can learn to be more resilient by changing the way we think about adversity and by looking at adversity as opportunity as well. So really, it's your thinking. It's positive thinking that's going to help you and help the families you work with become more resilient. So this is just a little bit more about the Penn State program and what their research found. People who are resilient can handle stress and frustration. They can gain a perspective, and often they gain a better perspective because they will try and look at different people's perspectives. So they do some soul searching and try and see it from others' points of view as well. They deal with problems, conflict, and opportunity in a more positive manner. And that goes back to what I said before, seeing conflict as time for change, time for progress, seeing mistakes as opportunity and reaching out and grabbing it. Okay? A stands for adversity. What is the conflict? What is happening? Okay? What is it that's made you upset? What is it that's made you stressed? What is it that you're worried about? B is your belief. So what are you thinking about the conflict that happened? What are your thoughts? What are your feelings? That's the belief. That's B. And C, what are the consequences? So if I believe that my friend stood me up because she couldn't care less about our relationship, the consequences are different than if I'm sitting there believing she may have gotten into an accident. If I'm believing she got into an accident, I might be sitting there worried and feeling I need to connect with her quick. If I'm feeling she stood me up because she couldn't care less, I probably am starting to get angry. And maybe one of the consequences is I'm cutting her off as a friend. Maybe that's what I decide to do before I even speak to her because this is not the first time it's happened. Okay, so that's the ABC model. You can go through this model easily with the children as well. So let's think of a conflict. Someone, if you want to give me a scenario at the center that you may experience with the children. A conflict scenario or an adversity that might happen.
Children want the same Thomas train.
They want the same Thomas, okay, toy. So the adversity is, we want the same toy. What is their belief?
It's mine.
It's mine. So if it's mine, really, why should I give it up? Right? Okay, so what is the consequence if they both decide not to give it up, for example? What can happen?
They both lose the toy.
They both lose the toy. Okay, so if my belief is, it's mine, so therefore I shouldn't have to really share it with you. If I could reframe their thinking, as a teacher, I don't know who had it first, for example. So if I reframe their thinking, is there a way, I know you feel this is your toy, she also feels it's her toy, is there a way that we can use this toy together? Okay. Pardon?
Share.
To share. Can we come up with a, can we take turns? Can we come up with a plan? So it's Thomas the engine, right? It's a little train. So can we come up with a plan how we can both use this toy? So maybe they can go in the block area and build a little train track, or maybe you do have a train track set in the center, bringing that out for them and saying, let's put the train tracks together and how can we use this toy together? But making them part of the solution as well and then having them implement it. So now the consequence becomes we're both playing and hopefully we're both happy because we're both enjoying the toy. Versus, I take the toy away. I don't know who had this toy. You're both screaming and yelling and saying that it was yours. I understand you're both upset, but I don't know whose toy it is. So now the consequence is I take it away. Consequence is no one has the toy, and they're probably still very upset with one another, and most likely with you as their teacher as well. What did they really learn from that? Nothing, not much. But if we're talking about, can we make a plan as to how we can use this toy together? There's dialogue happening between the children. Because I'm not making the plan as a teacher. They're making the plan. I'm there sort of to facilitate their learning, almost as a coach, mentor, as a mediator for those children. Because this way, eventually, they won't need me there. They will be able to do that on their own. Or when they're on a playground and something is happening that they don't like, hopefully, they will go through this ABC model, and they're not going to go, oh, A, what's my adversity? No, that's not how you're doing it with the children. You know, what happened here? Why are you upset? Okay? B, you're trying to figure out their belief. So it seems to me you're feeling like this because you think the following. Okay? what should we do about it, and helping them resolve that. So I'm going to quickly go through this one. The impact of resiliency skills on adults and children. They're using these skills daily, so it's helping them coast through life. These skills were also used in the childcare centers that I talked about here in Toronto to help assess and understand and change child behavior. So if you're having a child who, for whatever reason in your room, is having difficulty perhaps interacting with other children, you're going to observe what is happening, perhaps what the adversity is with the other child, what's your belief about it, and how you can help them through it. Also, the modeling resiliency skills can happen at any age, even for us as adults. We can become more resilient. They've been adapted for the children 4 years plus. Now they even have a parenting program so that you can do with your parents to help them build resiliency in their children as well. Observe children generalize the skills. So children take the skills and will incorporate it in everything that they do. There's improved adult relationships and communication. Communication with the children as well, but also peer-to-peer communication as an adult. And the children also, the impact of the research, it asks children about their thinking. You know, how do you view the world, and what do you think happens? What are your thoughts? What are your beliefs? And something we're going to talk about a little bit later are iceberg beliefs. So imagine the iceberg there in the water, and each of us have them. So one might be, boys don't play with dolls. So challenging that thinking, but why do you think boys shouldn't play with dolls? So trying to understand their perspective and then challenging their thinking. And this was what part of the research had conducted as well. Emotional regulation is very important to help children gain this skill. What does emotional regulation do? Does anyone understand what emotional regulation is? Do you have an idea of what you think it might be?
How much you're able to control your emotions?
That's right. So when we get mad, we're worried or upset, our emotions can be overwhelming, right? Our emotions can take us over. How do you control those emotions? How do you sort of de-stress and bring yourself back down? Okay? That's emotional regulation. We see this in your child care center all the time. Some children have more emotional regulation than other children, but this is a skill that they're having to learn. They haven't developed it yet, but we can help them learn it. How can we help them learn emotional regulation? That's right. So even when, for example, I've seen this happen sometimes in rooms where, let's say the children are really loud and they're screaming at each other and you're trying to get them to be quiet. In some rooms, what might happen is the teacher will try and yell above them, be quiet, right? Stop yelling. But what are you doing? You're yelling. So again, it goes back to modeling, is what you said. You yell more thinking you're going to get their attention, but really what ends up happening is they're getting louder than you because now they're almost in competition with your voice to hear each other. So some people might use techniques as closing the lights to get their attention, or whispering. Yeah, you just start whispering and all of a sudden the children are like, what are you saying? What did she say? Because they want to hear it. They're intrigued now. So it's helping them identify their emotions as well. You know, this is anger, this is fear, this is happiness, but also by identifying it in yourself. So this is my angry face. This is what I look like when I'm angry, so I'm not going to be smiling at you, right? This is what I look like when I'm happy. So if you're redirecting a child, you're making eye contact with them, and you're trying to tell them, I'm very upset right now. So it's labeling their feelings so that they learn how to label their feelings as well. And it's giving them the skills to, how can I calm myself down in a bad situation? So we talked about that child and you give them a little back rub, right? Same idea. Give a little back rub. And if you're modeling that, it'd be amazing to see that a child would do that to a peer. In one room I was in, there was a little girl who was very, very upset and crying. And the teacher got down on her knees and did exactly that, was modeling and saying, it's okay, it'll be fine. A 2-year-old little boy, was a family grouping setting, came up to her, and he's like, puts his face in her face, and he's trying to kiss her, to console her. Of course, she's moving back, she doesn't want it, but the teacher kept rubbing her back, and eventually he just took his arm and put it around her and stood there, and then looked at her, tried to go in for a kiss again, she wasn't having it. But He just stood there with his arm around her going, okay, okay, okay. This was modeled from the teacher because he was watching from afar and curious as to why is she upset. But as soon as the teacher got down and started rubbing the back, then he's like, okay. So now if he has a younger sibling at home, he may model the skill. Let's say mom might be upset one day. He might see mom upset. Most likely he will model the same skill with mom as a way to cope and to control her emotions. Impulse control is really, really important. Impulse control is being able to, exactly what it says, control myself, control my impulses, not to grab. Can I wait? Can I take turns? It's the whole sharing. And I want to show you a video about the marshmallow experiment. It was done years ago and it's been repeated again. I don't know, have any of you seen this? Have you seen it? Okay. This is excellent to model impulse control or lack of impulse control. And the premise of the experiment is the children are in a room and I give you a marshmallow. So the researcher will say, I just gotta go run an errand for a few minutes, but I'll be right back. If you don't eat your marshmallow, when I come back, I'll give you 2. Okay. Can you wait? Yeah, I can wait. So let's see how many children actually do wait.
Okay, sit in that chair. All right, here's the deal. Marshmallow for you. You can either wait, and I'll give you another one if you wait, or you can eat it now. When I come back, I'll give you another one, so then you'll have 2. But stay in here and stay in the chair till I come back, okay? All right. I'm gonna go do something and then I'll come back.
It smells yummy. Oh, it smells really good.
So it's up to you. You can have it now or you can wait. Okay? I'll be back. Stay in the chair, okay? Okay. All right, so I'm gonna leave and then I'll come back, okay? So you can either eat it right now or you can wait. Either way, okay? Okay. How'd you do? Did you do good? You did? Yeah. You wanted to eat it, didn't you? Yeah. So did I tell you to give you another one? Okay, now you can have both. You need them.
to wait.
Patience to wait. So
It becomes a part of your personality.
it becomes a part of their personality that I'm able to continue and persevere in a situation. I don't have to have this object right away. I can wait for it. Okay? And that's, research has shown that they have been more successful in life, the children that can wait for it. I'm not a researcher, but I also think, I don't know, at 4 or at 3, if you put a marshmallow in front of me, right? It'd be very difficult to wait, especially if I like marshmallows, right? Let's say I didn't like marshmallows, I'd be interested to see what would happen there.
Yeah.
I could be a 3-year-old who hates marshmallows, so then I might show that I do have good impulse control. So like I said, I'm not a researcher, but if I had seen another video, and the interesting thing is they had a brother and a sister, and the brother looked about 8 years old, and she looked about 3. So can you wait? The little one answers right away, I can wait, I can wait. And he's like, yeah, we're gonna wait. And the dialogue, he kept saying, if we wait, we'll get 2. So of course she's touching it already. She's probing it, she's pushing the plate back and forth because she really, really wants it. She takes a bite, and he turns to her and he says, oh, now you're not getting another one. You didn't wait. Yeah, I waited. So in her eyes, she did wait. She maybe waited 30 seconds. I waited, and she still had half her marshmallow there, and she wanted to eat the rest. And you just see it go on and on. She eventually said, that's it. She gets off her chair and goes to the door and brings a researcher in. So I'm thinking that shows some skill there too. I'm tired of waiting for you. I really want my marshmallow. You better get back in here. And impulse control too is about goal setting and following through. And I think the follow through is why the children and the people with impulse control perhaps are more successful. Because they are able to follow through with their goal. They are able to follow through with what they had said they wanted to do. And I think that makes a big difference there. Any questions so far on that? Okay, causal analysis. Analyze the problem to get to the root of the problem. Right, so what is the root of the problem? If we go back to your scenario with your friend who you feel may have stood you up, you're at the restaurant, what is the root of the problem? Is she sick? Did something happen to her child? Was she in a car accident? Or did she forget? Maybe she just forgot. Maybe she has too many things happening in her life right now that she forgot. That way, you can have an accurate appraisal of what's going on. Otherwise, what happens? If we don't find out what is the root of the problem, what do we often do? We make assumptions. That's right. We judge. Right? We jump to conclusions. Or we become a mind reader. Oh, I know exactly why she's thinking and exactly why she did this. Wow, are you psychic? Pardon?
We get into the conclusion that make us satisfied.
Yes. We fill in the blanks often, right? And we often do this sometimes when we're communicating with people as well. The person's trying to explain, but in your head, you got that judgment, and maybe I'm finishing the sentence for you. Maybe I'm identifying how you're feeling. No, don't put words in my mouth. How many times have people said that? Don't put words in my mouth. That's not what I was saying. That's not what I was thinking. So we jump to conclusions. So this, by stepping back and analyzing, okay, what is the real problem here? Really, what's going on? Hopefully you'll be more accurate in your thinking, because that also gives you time to cool down and calm down and look at things from a logical perspective. For sure. I know someone who grew up a mom and 2 sisters, and someone had said, oh wow, you're really good at in tune with your emotions. He goes, what choice do I have? That was his response. What choice do I have? Doesn't mean that if I come from a family of all males, or just, where I have 3 brothers, it's my mom and my dad, that I can't show empathy or my emotions. But again, it's, do I feel comfortable? Because was that the thinking that I was given, was that I shouldn't show them? And it happens to females too, right? Many females where, if you want to get somewhere in life, you can't cry all the time. You can't cry at the drop of a hat. You'll never get anywhere. So if that's the attitude, if those are the thoughts that I've been given, and I haven't been shown empathy when I'm down about something, it becomes very difficult for me to model it to you. I was saying, see, this parent isn't taking care of the child. They're not taking care of the child well. And I'd say, why aren't they taking care of the child well? Well, look, he comes in with the same top every day. I said, but it's clean, right? It's not soiled. It doesn't smell. It's a cycle of poverty here. She cannot afford to go out and buy 20 different tops, so this child has a different top on every day. From the staff's perspective, I would never send my child to school with the same top day after day. I said, that's your opinion, and you can afford to go buy a different top for each day. but this parent cannot. So don't put your bias onto this parent and judge them and their parenting skills based on it. So analyzing, stepping back and saying, is this my perception of how things should be, or is it how it truly is? Someone had their hand up at the back over here. Yes.
Being creative.
Creative, yes. Being creative can also help you be creative when it comes to problem solving, right? And how you look at things. Anything else that you feel should be here that I'm missing?
Reflect on your behavior.
Ah, yes. So be reflective. How many of you reflect on your behavior or reflect on a situation to try and better understand it? You do? Anybody else?
All the time.
All the time. Okay, yes. And is it helpful to you?
Most of the time, no.
Sometimes no, okay.
Yeah, all the time I think will be too depressing.
It could be depressing if you overprocess, right? If you reflect on your behavior, you analyze it, and you say, okay, now, it is what it is, I'm going to go forward from here.
I know my weakness. I would overanalyze.
Okay,
things.
that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you don't want to overanalyze, because then what you do is you're going to get stuck.
Yeah.
You're not going to move forward, which is what we're saying. We need to move forward. But you can reflect on your behavior and say, did I contribute to perhaps what happened in some way? How did I contribute to it? In a positive way, a negative way? What would I do differently next time? So even let's say you dealt with a situation with a child, and at the end you were still feeling frustrated, or you feel like, I don't know, I just don't think I dealt with it properly. Why can't you go back and talk to the child and say, you know what, I think Carol did overreact. When we were on the playground and I took that toy away, I was thinking about it and I did overreact. I shouldn't have taken the toy away. You were right. What does that teach the child when I go back and do that?
A very
It's
important
okay.
skill.
A very important skill.
You can make mistake in your judgment.
That's right. And I admit to it, and I take responsibility for my mistake.
And you respect him enough to go back.
To go back and say, I'm sorry. And again, I'm modeling for them that hopefully when they make a mistake, they could take responsibility. They sit back and reflect and say, yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, so to keep that in mind. Now going back to the ABC model, I have a little activity for you to do at your table. I will pass it out.